Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I decided to go back and watch some retro wrestling today. And for this one, honestly, I had to go onto the WCW Network. I had to go into the vault and watch a September 4th of 2000 episode of WCW Monday Nitro. What is going to be airing Monday, Conrad and Tony Schiavone will be doing an episode of the Tony Schiavone podcast. For this, they will be doing it on this episode of WCW, talking about War Games 2000. Honestly, since its birth, the Tony Schiavone show, or the Tony Schiavone podcast, whatever it's called, on MLW Network, has honestly became one of my favorite wrestling podcasts there is to listen to. One, my Observer account ran out, and I haven't re-upped it yet. Two, they upload on Mondays, and there's not very many other podcasts that upload on Mondays, and I find it a very good thing to jump onto. I find myself either listening to it after I get off of work, or I find myself, honestly, listening to it to try and fall asleep throughout the night, and a lot of the episodes are really good to the point where I can't fall asleep. This episode of WCW Nitro honestly kicked off with the WCW sort of recap of, how this is going to be the best episode of WCW Monday Nitro of all time. This is the kickoff of their 6th anniversary of being on TNT. They're hyping up War Games 2000, which I'm guessing either was plugged the week before on Nitro, or maybe it was plugged on Thunder, maybe it was put on WCW, which had one of the worst websites of all time. Instead of just being WCW.com, was WCW Championship Wrestling. Didn't stop me as a kid from typing in all of those buttons to go through, but these days, WWE.com, I'm sure GFW has their own website that's out there, ROH is out there, just making it short, making it simple. But then again, this was back in the day where not even everybody had internet in 2000 as it was, so I'm sure it wasn't that big of a deal. Just looking back at it, it's honestly pretty funny. When this episode kicks off and they're showing what is going to happen, this match was actually plugged as a 4-on-4 match, much like War Games of the past, only they set up one ring instead of using the classic 2 rings. Now using the famed Ready to Rumble triple-decker cage that was used at Slammiversary 2000 in the match that was, I think it was Jeff Jarrett against Diamond Dallas Page, and the actor from Ready to Rumble made his big, I guess you can say, heel turn at that show. David Arquette, the bad days of WCW. Some people say that was the nail in the coffin for them. But what this match was originally supposed to be, as being a 4-on-4, it was originally supposed to be Sting, Booker T, Goldberg, and Ernest Miller for Team WCW going up against Nash, Jarrett, Steiner, and Vince Russo in Team WCW 2000. Instead, and honestly, which didn't even open up the show, which was the second segment of the night, was a Vince Russo promo where he came down to the ring and basically threw everything out the window. Called one team the face team of baby faces, called one team the heel team, told them that everyone is going to have to compete in qualifying matches in order to get into the match itself, which threw everyone into just random matches. The episode of Nitro is an hour and a half on the network with no commercials, and once Russo's deal was all done, there was only an hour left of the show for all of these guys to have singles matches and have the War Games match, which shows you how quick and easy all of these matches were. Opening match ended up being Sting against Vampiro and the Great Muta in a handicap match, Goldberg beat Shane Douglas. Booker T beat Stevie Ray. Ernest the Cat Miller lost to Chronic, who was attacked earlier in the day by the Harris twins, but still was able to get the win there. That made it a 4-on-5 advantage match going into this. Once this match got underway, it honestly was the biggest clusterfuck of all time. For anyone who's seen the triple decker cage, neither in this match or in the Slamboree match, it is a monstrosity. It is very awesome. It's very cool to see the triple decker cage. It's probably even taller than the Hell in a Cell version that WWE uses today. But one, they can't shoot anything that happens in the second cage, or on the top cage, or the dam. There's horrible lighting inside the second cage where you can't even see what is going on inside the second cage, which was stacked with tons of gimmicks like bolt cutters, trash cans, kendo sticks, all sorts of weapons. This match is honestly just garbage. This match is not good at all. It's hard to keep up with this, even what is going on. In War Games fashion, a babyface and a heel start off the match. The match, progressively goes. I believe it's every 90 seconds. It might have been 2 minutes, but the match didn't seem that long. Another guy comes out of the back, and even at one point, Chronic comes out as a team. 2 guys enter the cage at one time. That they were followed up by Vince Russo. Vince Russo came down, followed by the Harris brothers, the jabroni versions of the NWO 2000. Russo didn't even get into the match itself, only had the Harris brothers climb up the outside of the cage to compete on the second level of the cage. During this match, Chronic and the Harris brothers ended up fighting down the stage and taking their feud out of this match, just fighting through the crowds, fighting into the middle of nowhere. The ring, basically just filled up of everybody. Once Kevin Nash, who was the WCW champion that throughout the show is being hyped up for a match against Booker T at Fall Brawl, which happens in 2 weeks. And here they are having this huge match for the championship on Nitro that they could lose at any time, but they're still telling you during the match, tune in 2 weeks to see Booker T versus Kevin Nash for the WCW Championship. They don't even hype it up at all. Using the gimmicks throughout the cage, basically Steiner and Jarrett were able to use handcuffs, handcuffing Sting and Booker T to the walls of the second cage. Goldberg was handcuffed on the bottom stage. Because of this, with all of the baby faces being tied up and Chronic being out of the match, NWO was able to grab a hold of the belt. The purpose of this match was you had to grab the belt from the top of the triple cage, then fight your way back down, and then come out throughout the cell. In the movie Ready to Rumble, as well as the Slamboree 2000 match, you just had to basically climb up and be the first guys who grabbed it. With Russo's revenge, he threw all the rules out the window. Once the belt was able to make its way down, even though Kevin Nash had shown signs of being mad at Russo for making him put his title on the line, even getting to the point where he choked out Russo once during the match, and also took shots at trying to choke out Jarrett and Steiner, his NWO 2000 members, the belt was brought back down. It was handed to Nash. As he started to celebrate bringing the champion, Goldberg stood up and broke free of his handcuff, and then basically started to fight off. He took out Nash, he took out Russo, found himself with the belt, thought he was going to walk right out of the cell with the championship, which got the crowd really into it, to find NWO 2000 member Bret Hart, the one guy that was not inside of this cage. I can honestly tell you that, using my mind, I think that Bret Hart was, during this time was not able to wrestle due to concussion problems, but maybe I'm wrong on my timeline. Slammed the steel cage door, much like Mr. Perfect did to Ric Flair, or Mr. Doc Hendricks did to Kerry Von Erich, kicking off the Von Erichs versus the Fat Beast Freebirds feud in WCCW. Hart hit Goldberg with the cell door, which made him collapse, dropping the belt at the line of the cell where he did not exit, only to be picked up by Jeff Jarrett, who instead of crossing the line with the title, picked it up, threw it back into the ring, only for Vince Russo to grab the belt, pull it back out, have a face-to-face with Kevin Nash, give the belt to Nash, who then hugged him, and NWO 2000 as a foursome walked out of the cell together with Kevin Nash being their champion, still setting up Fall Brawl 2000 with him against Booker T for the title. Even though it seems like Goldberg is the one guy that seems to be the hottest, they would probably have the most revenge going into it. I don't even know what happened at Fall Brawl 2000. I can't even picture the VHS cover in my mind to what happened to that show. But definitely would set up Bret Hart versus Goldberg if it could happen. Chronic against the Harris twins. And a few other matches along the way. I can honestly tell you that I only watched this because of the Shivani podcast, but it's not enough to make me want to watch Fall Brawl. I'm glad that I watched this. It was a horrible match. It reminds me how bad WCW 2000 was. I will stick up for WCW NITRO of 2001 in the dying days being a very good wrestling show, but I can't stick up for this garbage. I don't know when Russo leaves or Russo got fired, but this is one reason why it should have happened sooner.